It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything happening in the world of video games so you don't have to think for yourself. You do have to dance for yourself, though, apparently. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is...
Mike Minotti. Where did you get our new intro song?
This
good.
Yeah, it's like a jazzy YouTube guy who does like reworks of video game music, and I'm like, hey, can we use this? And he said, yeah, sure. I'm gonna have to... Pretty sure I'm supposed to be crediting him, so I should get his name, and we can start doing that next episode.
Let's get those credits.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a good jam.
That is. Yeah, he did a good job with that. I'm super duper into it. So yeah, on today's episode, other than just loving our own theme song, we're going to get into the news. We're going to talk about some games. First, though, I want to thank everybody for joining us. You can get more from me and Mike at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share, you can get us on Twitter at GamesBeat or at GBDecides. There's also an email, gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. If we get something wrong, if you hate Mike's guts, that's where you send it. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, the video version, there's an audio version of the show. You can get that on Google Play, Apple Podcast. Apparently, there's a Google Podcast now or Android Podcast app, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we're on
podcast.
Yeah, we're on Stitcher.
Now.
Right, I think we're on most of those. I think I'm gonna have to double check because it's changing. The landscape of podcasts are changing. Mike Minotti. Finally, if you like the show, rate us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us, I guess. All right, so I can
guess.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows anymore? Mike, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. You know, summer's been summering it up. I was at Cedar Point this past weekend, which is one of the. I don't know if it still is the world's largest roller coaster park, but it's up there. I don't like roller coasters, but it was my brother's birthday. He wanted to go there, so hey.
Did you end up riding any, or like did you just go?
No.
Okay.
I went on the Sky Buckets, which I was very excited about. They used to have those in Disney World. And then I went on the train, which, again, like Disney World, they have an actual steam train there. And at one point, Cedar Point and Walt Disney Company exchanged trains. Like, I don't know which trains. But, at one point they did that. Because, you know, there's only so many of these trains. You either have to build them from scratch, which Disney has done, or you have to, like, get them. And I know, like, a lot of the Disney trains used to, like, move sugar in, like, Mexico or, you know, northern Mexico or something weird. So... like, it's really interesting because, like, a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, they have, like, the theme park train. It's, like, a fakey thing like everything else. Like, if you go to a theme park and they have a steel train, that is, like, a train. It's really cool.
Yeah, I guess that would be, like, there's probably not a company that just, like, builds those these days.
No.
Like, that is probably work that is very specific and specialized. I've never thought about that.
Like, there are actual steam trains running on steam. You can see, like, there's always water towers somewhere, and, yeah, it's neat. Yeah,
that's really cool. I've definitely, I think I've ridden that one, if it's been there for a while.
It's been there for a long time.
Yeah, so I rode it. Yeah, I love Cedar Point. I haven't been in like a decade now. But when I lived in Ohio, I definitely went. It's a really great place. If anyone's in the Midwest, check it out for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of wasted on me because I can't do roller coasters. Like, I love theme parks.
Right.
It's like I still have fun just like admiring it, and it's more on the amusement park side. It's not really all that themed. It has like this one Wild West section that's like very heavily themed, and everything else is kind of just they're all midways, right? But I mean, the whole point is that it has a ton of roller coasters and it has a lot of really big ones. The big new one this year is Steel Vengeance, which is they converted an old wooden coaster, I think it was called the Mean Streak, and kind of like turned into this hybrid steel wooden coaster with like much bigger drops and some inversions even. Yeah, it looks really neat.
Yeah,
I like who does like these things loved it.
I used to love the Mean Streak and the Blue Streak and all those.
Blue Streak's still there, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think that was like the one they were known for like 50 years ago, the Blue Streak or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like that and like Corkscrew. Corkscrew's still there. It's neat because like the Corkscrew is like kind of on the like walking path.
Yes, you walk underneath it. Yeah.
Like you walk right underneath the Corkscrew. It's actually very. Yeah, but yeah, this isn't the roller coaster podcast.
No, but it's a good.
Although I do love Planet Coaster, Roller Coaster Tycoon, so I think that's why I can like still like I like going to these places and looking at the coasters. And I know actually for Steel Vengeance, the way they like debuted that coaster was they had it running in Planet Coaster, and they showed like the trailer of that.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, Planet Coaster. there's no reason why I think companies couldn't just literally use it to like prototype roller coasters.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know?
Yeah, I'm glad they do that though. I'm glad they actually think to do that. That's neat.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, I mean, summer in here too, but summer just means that I'm really hot. It's really hot, Mike. It's been like 95 degrees every day in Denver, and it stinks. I don't like it.
Yeah, it was rough in Cedar Point.
Yeah.
There's a moment where the sun was beating on me pretty good, especially with the lack of hair I have these days. It was a little rough.
But I tell you what's got me really hot is that they've ruined my She-Ra, Mike. They've taken She-Ra, and they made her look less beautiful. I'm very. Do you know about this news, Mike? They're making a new She-Ra cartoon.
Who's She-Ra?
She-Ra's the woman He-Man.
Oh, I was never into any of that He-Man stuff.
Well, neither was I, but now I'm very mad about it.
Just like everyone getting mad that Thundercats thing is just like the same thing.
Yes, it is very similar. I gotta find you this. I'm sorry, I gotta find this. This is
okay. We'll look at She-Ra.
Yeah, well, I just gotta read you what someone wrote about it, but I think I liked someone making fun of it. I gotta find it for you. It's pretty.
What's wrong? I'm looking at her. What's wrong with her? She's. I mean,
okay,
it looks like a hard cartoon
let
now.
me allow a man from the internet explain it to you. So you're saying that the female character before looked somewhat manly, and thus it is good that they made her even more manly? I don't want over-sexualized characters at all, but by making all characters under-sexualized, you will give the same self-esteem problems, but to sexy girls.
What? Well, how is she manly? She's like, has long blonde hair and like high skirt. What? No, I don't know.
She's not.
People suck.
People suck, and they're very upset about this. And then,
well, that's funny. I was just choosing to laugh at them.
Yeah, do you know the guy that got kicked out of the Magic community for like harassing a cosplayer?
Yeah, that was awful.
He's very much into this.
What a shock!
Yeah, what a shock! Exactly. And his whole thing is
childhood.
His whole thing was, here, look at this beauty, and he like shows like a clip show with like music of the original She-Ra, and I died, Mike, when I saw that in his video, and I've been dead since this morning after seeing that. So that's just where I'm at. I'm hot. At least I'm just glad we got these fighters fighting for She-Ra. They won't ever take it away from me.
She doesn't look like a man. I guess she does. Is it just because she doesn't have gigantic breasts? Is that really?
Yes. I think that's all there is.
And visible lipstick. Like she doesn't have visible lips. I don't know. Like if her lips were red, everyone would be happy. If she had the Minnie Mouse eyelashes.
Yep.
Let's put a bow on her.
I mean, the
polka dots. Where are the polka dots?
The complaint here basically is I don't want to fuck this cartoon, and I wanted to fuck the old one. Like that's what the complaint is.
More of her for me. Oh no.
Precisely. All right. So, what have you been playing, Mike? What have you been playing?
Well, I feel like everyone else is really getting into Hollow Knight on a Switch, and I'm kind of playing a very different indie kind of roguelike or roguelite. That's what we're calling these.
Yeah,
but I'm playing 20XX or 20XDX. I don't know how you say it. I like to say XDX because I think it's funnier.
It's just 20XX. Why? What do you mean XDX?
Well, because it's like 2021, right, or 13 something. So the first S is like XD, right?
Okay, I got you. That's really dumb.
XDX.
Yeah, I got you.
I'll kill you. But so this is you played Rogue Legacy, right?
A little bit. It's one I haven't gotten into.
Yeah.
I'm like holding up for Hollow Knight right now. It's where I'm thinking about going.
This is Rogue Legacy, except instead of like Castlevania as the gameplay mechanics, it's all Mega Man X. Okay. It's much more Mega Man X than that game even was Rogue Legacy. It's very obviously Mega Man X. And the way it works is you start like a run of the game, you go to one of the random like levels, then you it's procedurally generated, like like the puzzle pieces, right? Like you'll recognize segments once you start doing it a bunch, but it could be different, the order of it.
Right.
Then you get to the boss and you have to fight him. Then if you win, you get you get some items, and then you get to pick like one of the 3 next bosses, and you kind of try to go as far as you can without dying. And then if you do die, you some of the currency you have you can spend to get permanent upgrades to hopefully make it easier next time. So it's one of those. It's a roguelite in that if you die you lose progress, but there is some progression, with the idea being that eventually you'll kind of have enough help to get there. But it's neat because it is very Mega Man X-y with all the wall jumping, wall climbing, charge shots. You can play as 2 characters. One of them is like X with the Buster. The other one has like a Z Saber like Zero. You can kind of alternate between the 2, and they both have the same kind of basic upgrades and stuff. So like you could just kind of mix it up that way. It's really fun. The only issue is that like the actual art style, like they'll even have like hand drawn like not cutscenes but like pictures between things. They look pretty amateurish, but super fun if you like Mega Man X. I mean, this is I think this is a pretty easy get.
Yeah, it sounds like there's going to be a ton of these games that are structured like this, and they're going to have a bunch of different kinds of mechanics on top of them that like call back to these other games, or like, because the one I'm playing right now is Dead Cells, because it's about to come out in its final release, and I just got the Switch code, so I'm playing it on there now. And it's structured pretty similarly. You know, it's procedurally generated in that, you know, it takes sections of levels and puts them together differently each time, and you go through and you try to collect the resources to get permanent upgrades. So when you die, you get back some of your resources, and then you put, what you want to do is just go back out and find those upgraded weapons now, and now you have a better chance of getting even further this time. So yeah, and this is totally like Rogue Legacy and a bunch of other ones. Hollow Knight is not maybe exactly the same, but
yeah, I don't actually know how Hollow Knight works.
Right.
I mean,
me neither. It sounds like that's got a more structured world.
Some rogue elements, I think, but I think it's more Metroidvania.
Right, exactly. But yeah, it just seems like people are going to keep making, you know, these kinds of games just with different mechanics on top of them.
I mean,
and people, you could just pick which one works for you. And I'm sure like Mega Man X, I'm sure is ideal for what you like, and then
it's a pretty good one to go to because Mega Man X has the really kind of fun traversal and a lot of things. So
yeah, and I'm really digging Dead Cells, which has some Castlevania, more of the modern Castlevanias, because it has so many different kinds of weapons. But even more so than those modern Castlevanias, each weapon feels so different and keeps the combat fresh. So
the Switch indie backlog is just getting insane.
Oh yeah, it's getting absurd.
I'm gonna have enough things to play on that system forever. I've even started Yoko's Island Express, and like, yeah,
good game. I finished that one. I'm glad I did. It was good.
Yeah, I want to play it.
Other than Dead Cells, I finished my first run of Frostpunk, which I was pretty happy with, because it seems like that game's pretty hard, and most people probably don't normally beat it the first time, but since I'm a pro gamer, I did. And what I found was that really embracing my inner dictator and religious, I'm a god is what I'm trying to say, and I made my people, I forced them to believe that I was a god, and I killed the ones that didn't, and then we were fine after that. So there's like 2 meters at the bottom of the screen you have to be worried about. You have to be juggling the whole time. One's like hope, and the other one is discontent. Hope.
Do you want hope to be high or low?
You want hope to be high, and you don't, because if hope gets low, they'll start like considering like leaving, because they're like, maybe there's other settlements and we don't have to like we should have never left London. We should just go back. So you want to keep hope high. But what I did was I just researched a bunch of like religious options till I got to the point where, all right, now it's time for the new religion. And this was me completely replacing the hope meter with devotion. And devotion is always full 100% of the time, and I no longer had to worry about hope. Now, we did have to break a few eggs to get there, Mike.
Damn, this is terrifying.
Yes, it really is. We had to break a few eggs to get there, but in the end, we did survive the very harsh winter. It was negative like 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So, look, worship me and I'll get you through this was my deal. And most people agreed with me. Like, most people saw that as like, okay, yeah, I can make that happen. The one.
So basically, you tricked them into thinking that their suffering was like good, or something.
Well, I tricked them into thinking that like by, believing in me to the point where they thought I was a god, that I would be able to see them through this punishing thing. Not necessarily that their suffering was good, but that their suffering was going to come to an end, and I was the only one that can make it end.
I see.
Yeah, it was rewarding, and I liked that part, but
but your soul is now damned forever.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Like it does this really cool thing at the end of your run where it's like, it like basically just does the highlights, and it like picks. Obviously, it's like procedurally generated. Like, oh, we started out by putting the children to work, because the first thing I selected was child labor, of course. Get those kids, and it was safe jobs for the most part. And at the end, I'm like, let's have them go work in the factories. That'll be useful now. But that storyline at the end where it like recaps your story, it's like, and then we went too far. The fight for survival turned into fanaticism. And I'm like, hey, look, I did what I had to do to keep people, fed and clothed and sheltered.
Most of the people.
But there was like
the
this.
ones that you killed.
Yeah, well, you know, who's to say that they're even people, really?
Oh no.
But there was like this really like good story, like writing element in it, and it was very subtle. Like it starts off with this guy comes to you, and he's just, you know, he's not like really an NPC. He's just like a text thing, and it comes up, and he's just represented by a small little icon that walks around the map. And he's like, hey, you have to let me go outside the city because we're just like this small little circular city in the middle of the tundra. You have to let me go outside the city because my daughter's missing. She went out there by herself. I have to go get her. She's been missing for a while. And I'm like, dude, it is negative like 118 degrees at this point in our city. So out there, it's going to be even colder. She's dead. I'm not going to let you go. You just stay here. So he stays. He has no choice. I force him to stay because I have these religious police basically that I can use to make people do what I want. So he stays and he's very upset. And you know, I forget about him. I play my turns. You know, I keep going. I keep trying to improve the city and make sure that we're ready. Dealing with resource shortages all the time. Like we have this big storm coming. I have to have enough food. Oh my god, I have like almost no food right now. So we need to focus on that. And then all of a sudden I get this message. The guy killed himself. He hung himself, and it shows the guy hanging himself. And I'm like, oh man, that sucks. That's that's pretty hard to deal with. And then like 2 turns later, the daughter shows up. She was hiding by the generator. And I'm just like, mother, this hurts. Like, that is actually painful. Like, I don't know if there was anything I could have done. I'm sure if I had let him go out, he probably would have died anyhow. But it was just like these small little bits of story being thrown at me throughout the thing to, like, really humanize the characters that I really appreciated. It was some pretty smart stuff because it wasn't, like, overbearing. I didn't have to take in a lot, but it was just, like, these, you know, handful of beats that really brought home the fact that I'm dealing with people that still have emotions and stuff. You know, and as their god, I appreciate that. So, you know.
I should have not killed himself. I think that was on him, Jeff. Don't worry.
Yeah, a little. I mean, I understand though, and it was still heartbreaking when it happened though. But yeah, it's a really good game. I think I'm probably gonna go back and try one of the other scenarios. There's one where you have to save the seed museum, the thing where we keep all the seeds from Earth. We have like in Norway or whatever. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, that seems cool, and apparently it's a harder mission, so I'd like to check that out. And I probably wouldn't be able to use like the religious options there, so I'd like to see what other stuff I have available. Other than that, Danger Zone 2, which I don't know if I talked about last week. I think I didn't. I don't think I got it till later. So. It's the sequel to Danger Zone, which is the spiritual successor to the Crash mode from the Burnout games. I like the first game a lot. They are... or Danger Zone 1. I liked it because, you know, it's just this vehicular puzzle game where, like, you just drive your car into this intersection, and if you do it just right, if you find the right route, you can maximize your score, and you go up on the leaderboard, and you're like, oh, wow, that's a really good score compared to most people in the world. And that's a really satisfying thing to do for me. I think a lot of people weren't happy with the first one because there wasn't a lot of variety, especially in the levels, because you were in, like, this VR lab thing. And that didn't really bother me, but people were like, I want to be out in the real world, like crashing real stuff. I want to feel like that's what I'm doing. And also, you were almost always in like the same kind of sedan car throughout the entire Danger Zone 1. This one changes it up. You're outside. You're in like a Los Angeles most of the time, it seems like. I've only gotten through the first region, and I'm in the second region now. Second region looks a lot like the first one. But you are driving a lot more varied vehicles. So you have that sedan, but you also have like an F1 Indy racer. And you have a huge, like big rig that can like knock anything off the road. And so there's a lot more variety, and I'm into that. I like that. But I think what they really did to ensure that Danger Zone 2 feels like a big step over the first one is they've worked on the part of the levels called the run-up, which is, you know, there's the Danger Zone at the end where you're supposed to cause the massive crash. But the run-up, like, is this just like this, you know, takeoff area before that point. And it gives you challenges to complete in this run-up area. Like one of them is like crash 8 taxis, and so you're running up like just behind these cars, and not every car is a taxi, and you have to figure out how to knock like certain cars into the taxis so that you could take out each one before you get to that danger zone. And there's only just enough taxis, and the way that they make sure this is super entertaining is if you hold down either the X or the B button on an Xbox controller. You know, the X is on the left, the B is on the right. You will knock the car that you bump into to the left or to the right. and if you hold neither, they'll just go forward. So it feels like you're really in control of like causing the mayhem and ensuring that like one car bounces into another exactly like you want. So like, okay, I've taken out 2 taxis over there. I don't have to worry about them anymore. I can just keep shooting ahead to take out the next ones. And it's super satisfying. I'm really, really into that. And then of course the destruction at the end is just as good as it ever was. I never thought there was a problem with that in Danger Zone 1. So, and it's just as good here. So I'm into this game. I'm really liking it. I like the first one though, so I'm not sure how people are responding to it. I think it feels like maybe 3 feels.
People mad that Danger Zone looks too boyish now.
Yeah, they're very upset. Yeah, they don't want to fuck it, and they don't know what to do. Yeah, that's I don't know. I'm into it, but I'll be interested to see how other people receive it as more people get their hands on it. But that does it for me, Mike. Anything else from you?
Not really. I mean, I've been playing World of Warcraft. The kind of pre-patch came out today. It's
right.
Sort of introducing some of the features and like basically a lot of the class changes before the expansion comes out next month. So the servers have been getting hit pretty hard. So I've only been able to mess with it a little bit. But you know, playing World of Warcraft still as usual.
Time for news.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, Mike. Sorry about that. I have the button here, and I want to press it all the time.
Nothing to apologize for.
All right, so we're getting into the news then. Unless you have to go pee-pee, I can let you go pee-pee if you want.
No,
Mike.
I'm good. I pee-pee before.
All right, we're on a roll here then, people.
Oh, can't stop me now.
First up is, I think, maybe one of the most shocking stories that I can't believe that this is a real thing. So, Alien Colonial Marines, not a great game, right?
This is the Gearbox one, right?
Yes, yeah. Yes. Apparently, one letter. If you would have changed one letter in the code of that game, it would have made it maybe not a great game or even a good game, but significantly better. So it's a single typo, and it's in basically the part of the code that controls how the enemies move. And it's called tethering, and it's like basically that tethers the enemies to certain parts of the level so that they can move intelligently. Someone at some point when they were like debugging or something spelled tether Teather whatever with an A instead of how it's spelled, which is without an A. And all the other instances of that word is spelled correctly. So those other instances aren't linking back home to the home base code that would have told the enemies, the xenomorphs, how to behave properly. So people went in, they fixed that A, they took it out. And all of a sudden, the enemy AI was just so significantly improved that it was immediately noticeable. And it's just baffling to me that one letter can do this. Could this could you think of anything else in any other medium other than games where one letter can go? First of all, it took 5 years to find this, and second of all, it can break so much.
That's what's baffling to me. I can understand how a typo can happen. I can't believe that like the people making the game who probably had an idea of how the AI should work just never discovered this.
I mean, fixed it. It's got to be so hard to find one letter in the code, and at a certain point, like you release the game and you're like, oh man, maybe it's not working, but we got to ship the game.
I think a lot of people who worked on Colonial Marines are probably just ready to move on.
No, I think that's got to be part of it, right? I mean, a lot of other games you feel like this, like they would have found it eventually, but they definitely moved on from this. There was like lawsuits involving this game. The morale was probably low enough that no one wanted to go look for the bug.
Like, please point me in the direction of the Borderlands pre-sequel or whatever.
Right. And when you see the behavior, if someone was familiar enough with the way the character should be behaving to know that they weren't behaving correctly, they probably assumed it wasn't just a one-letter fix. It's probably like, okay, I'm going to have to go in there, and my fix is going to probably break something else, and then I'll have to fix that. So it's going to be a ton of work, and it's just not worth it. Of course, you have no idea that it's just one letter.
It's like the equivalent of like watching a movie where the audio is slightly out of sync, but like even in that instance, that's usually like a specific theater problem or a TV problem. Like this is just
every
instance of this game was like weird.
Yeah,
man.
I making games more than anything, like this is what this makes me think of, is making games is so damn hard.
I wonder if how many developers went through their game files now. We're like Control F TEATH find all instances replaced with
and people were like on the the woman that runs the train jam to GDC, where people make games on the way to GDC, she started a thread about like, hey, developers, tell me all your stories about how like one bad typo ruined a bunch of stuff in your game and like how you fixed it. And like people were talking about like working with teams from America and teams from England and using English or American English spellings for stuff and how that would break things and cause a lot of lost time. So it happens, and it's probably not as rare as we think. Still, though, baffling.
Oof.
Okay, so up next, I think one of the bigger stories from last week was more developer-centered than a lot of other news. But Epic, the company that makes Fortnite and runs the Unreal Engine, they have reduced their take for assets that third parties sell in their marketplace. So basically, Unreal is a tool people can use to make games. And when you're using that tool, you can go to the Unreal Engine marketplace and buy a tree or a car or like a locking mechanism, so like your doors can lock and have padlocks on them. Like you could just install that into your game from the marketplace by paying for it. Traditionally, and this is a pretty traditional split for most stores, Epic was taking a 30% cut and 70% would go to the asset creator. They reduced that down to 12% for Epic and increased it to 88% for the asset creator. A huge bump. The big thing here, though, is they're going to apply that split retroactively. So people are going to get that difference for every sale they've made for the last 4 years. So it's going to be a huge windfall for a lot of these people that have made a lot of assets, even like over just the last year, let alone the last 4 years. Some people I talked to a few developers who said they're going to get like $10,000 or more from this. So a pretty nice thing overall.
There's no way to explain this except that they are just so flush with Fortnite money that they don't even know what to do with it anymore. Like first off, that bump is huge from 30% to 12%.
Right.
And then to just retroactively apply it.
Right. They're just
there's no reason for them to have to do this. I mean, it's awesome to do. There's really, no one was ever going to hold them accountable to do something like this. People don't usually just give out money for no reason. It's because, like, all right, I guess we have a ton of money. I guess we should, kind of spread the wealth a little bit to some of these people who, I don't know, are affiliated even with Epic.
Yeah, I mean,
the Unreal Engine.
Like, you're right, no one was ever going to ask them to do this because 70 and 30 is it's a standard across the entire industry for platforms like this. It's what Apple Store is, Google Play. I'm pretty sure that's what the Unity Store is. So people were saying, okay, well, this isn't all altruistic. Of course, Epic is trying to compete against Unity and the Unity engine, which has a similar asset store. And it's like, well, yeah, of course, but like you could do all kinds of stuff to compete, and you don't have to like give away money in the process.
I think this probably already has been, edging out Unity for a bit here.
And I think it's so Unreal. I think Unreal is becoming the platform of choice for any developer that has to make stuff for a variety of platforms. If you are thinking like, I want to make stuff for the Switch and for the PC and for PlayStation 4, Unreal, especially in 3D, Unreal's probably your best bet.
Isn't that nuts? Because didn't that used to be the appeal of Unity, was that it was easy to port things?
Yeah, for sure. But like Unreal is just so scalable now because you could take a game that's like Fortnite, you could take a game like Fortnite and make it run on phones. And that's the Epic's whole thing, is they want games to be super scalable to run all kinds of hardware. Unity, I think, is still maybe better for very small teams, and their asset store is much bigger. It's got 10 times the amount of stuff as the Unreal asset store. So if you are working by yourself, you're going to have a lot more to choose from if you're working on Unity. But no, I do think, Epic has made even before Fortnite was coming out and was huge, Unreal was making a lot of pushes toward competing in that space with medium and small size developers against Unity, because all the last generation it was big developers using Unreal, right? It was we'd get BioWare making Mass Effect games in there, but now EA doesn't want to do that. They want to save that money by using one of their own engines. So Epic has shifted, and it's done so successfully. But yeah, I think just to say like, oh well, I mean, this is clearly just another selfish move. It's like, okay, maybe. But no, if your way of helping people or helping yourself is to help other people by giving them more money, let's just call that a good thing and then go home. Yeah.
There certainly seems like nobody loses here, huh?
Yeah,
except for maybe Unity.
Yeah, and Unity has other ways of competing. I talked to them. I got a story going up today or tomorrow they're gonna just keep finding other ways of competing, and that's totally fine too, and they will. People don't want to just have one option for this stuff. Unity does do some stuff better. Okay, so here's a really weird and kind of maybe dumb story, Mike. Capcom shares plummeted nearly 13% following analyst concerns over Monster Hunter World sales. Basically, the story here was that an analyst from, I think, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and I think this was a Japanese analyst, looked at Monster Hunter World sales over the last couple of weeks and compared them to the original sales, like coming right out at launch, and said they're dropping maybe faster than anticipated, and so Monster Hunter World sales are a risk going forward for Capcom. And then everyone was like, "Oh," and I think the analysts lowered their anticipation, their expectation, their forecast for Capcom. And then the market kind of reacted poorly to this 13% drop. I would say a couple things here. The market's never rational. Like almost never. Like they almost always take this news and they never understand it fully. But that doesn't stop them from panicking about it. Yeah, we saw that with like
Pokemon Go.
Yeah, Pokemon Go. They gave Nintendo a huge boost, and like then they remembered that Nintendo doesn't own Pokemon that way, and then the next day, Nintendo's share price dropped right back down. It was they're that dumb, and this analyst, I think it's somewhat fair because someone sent me exactly what they wrote, and they're basically trying to say that sales were at a certain rate even over like maybe 2 months ago. But in like the last month, they've dropped to like double or 5 figures, or I'm sorry, like 6-figure sales per week in Japan and around the world, as opposed to 3-figure sales per week. So it's instead of 100,000, we're getting like 15,000 sales. And I still feel like that maybe all this is saying is that the analysts still didn't understand from the beginning and maybe thought the tail would be huge in a way that these games still never are. And so when they put the wrong number on the expectations from the beginning, they're still just correcting themselves, and the market reacted to that as if it was Capcom screwing up instead of this analyst.
Right.
So,
I mean, basically, like my thing is not knowing so much about this kind of market world is that it just seems kind of crappy that Capcom has this giant success with Monster Hunter World, and they're kind of punished for it in this bizarre way over its not selling as well.
Right, I mean, it's the best-selling game ever, right? Or a fastest-selling game in like a really long time at the very least.
Capcom. Yeah,
for Capcom,
yeah, it was a huge hit. It is the Monster Hunter game that really broke out in the West finally. I mean, I don't know. Ongoing sales, I'm not sure what that's like. I assume people are still spending money on it. I know they're just doing some sort of Final Fantasy 14 thing recently. I don't know.
Yeah,
it just seems weird.
7.9 million units, through June or whatever it was. It's a huge number for a Capcom game. Let me just read the thing from the analyst real quick. Although cumulative sales volume is growing steadily, we get the impression the popularity of Monster Hunter is dying down 6 months after its release. We expect Capcom to develop measures to drum up demand, such as releasing a PC version and discounting the price. But sales have slowed earlier than we expected, and there will likely be a growing awareness of downside risk. So it's like, okay. I mean, that PC version is coming out next month, and yes, discounting prices is going to be a huge thing. Like, if it drops down to like $30, I think it's going to like find a lot more people on Xbox One and PlayStation 4.
This is kind of like self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit here.
Right.
Like, this guy's, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think the underlying thing here is what you said. A game selling 8 million copies from a publisher that doesn't normally do those kinds of numbers, it seems weird that Capcom would be punished for that. So yeah. I think these analysts in the market often are just such a bad combination when they get together and make reactions like this. Okay, up next, Rainbow Six Siege players who use slurs are now getting banned instantly. Sounds like a good thing, right, Mike? I think so.
Sure. I'm sure. I can imagine people who like slurs are mad.
Yeah, there are people definitely reacting like, "Oh, you won't let me say the F word anymore." It's like, homie, I don't think you know what a slur is, but
yeah.
It's so
does with swear words.
It sounds like the first instance is like you get an immediate half-hour ban, and if you get caught 3 times, there's a potential for a perma ban. and they're not just applying this to just like strictly correct spellings. People are like, oh, here's a meme spelling of the N word, and it's like, oh, everyone understands that this isn't hateful. And it's like, and they're like, hey, I got like someone says, Rainbow Six, I got banned for typing NIBBA, and they're like, good, we don't care, good, we know what you're trying to say, like,
you didn't trick us.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems like it's pretty strict, and it also kind of maybe shows that a lot of platforms can do this and just choose not to. So yeah, good. I mean, good on Ubisoft for doing this, because I will say, playing Rainbow Six Siege a lot over the last couple months, it's got one of the more toxic communities when it comes to this sort of language, and this was a much needed thing to kind of keep people who I think are into the game in a way that is not necessarily more casual, but just like wants to go in and have a good time. That stuff's a huge turnoff, and I'm glad that they're doing something about it.
I heard at least one instance where like people have been using this strategically. Like, they'll just say in chat to the other team, like, don't be racist, and like someone on the other team just can't resist, and will just write the N-word and then get kicked.
God, that's so good, actually.
Right?
Yeah,
like, they just can't help it.
Yeah, if they make
you can't tell me what to do.
Oh my God, it's part of the meta. I love it. Oh my God.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. Did you watch this new No Man's Sky trailer?
Yeah, I watched a bit of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming out July 24th. It's a big update for all platforms. I believe it will also be coming out on Xbox One on that day. It adds multiplayer and third-person perspective and maybe some other stuff. And does it look appealing to you?
No.
Yeah, I mean,
even the promise of what No Man's Sky could be at its best was never all that interesting to me.
Right.
I mean, I have so many things to go to right now to play. I don't know if I'm gonna like suddenly get back into. Like, I don't think that having other people next to me would suddenly make No Man's Sky fun.
Right. I think it does fulfill a lot of those early promises that people were upset about. So
sure.
I think there's.
I mean, I think it's better. It'll probably make the game better.
Right. So this is like this is their most recent big update, but they've done some other ones that have added building, so you can construct your own home base, for example, and they completely reworked the narrative so that the writing is a lot more. It's a lot more propulsive. It pushes you through the galaxy in a lot more interesting ways. And this is already in the game, and I think adding multiplayer and adding third person, so you could see your own character and you could see the other characters, and there's like scuba diving, I guess, now and stuff like that. It seems like it could be the game that maybe some people wanted.
It's getting closer to being an MMO.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very maybe like the Destiny flavor of MMO, but it's still not going to have all the shooting and the missions and stuff. It's much more just about mining. I'm definitely going to check it out again though, because I never went back and played that new narrative, the restructured narrative.
I haven't played it since Vanilla No Man's Sky. Are they going to make Vanilla No Man's Sky 10 years later? Everyone's going to be nostalgic.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
probably not.
No, that's going to have a huge upswell of support for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out though. I'm interested to see. I'm just overall interested in No Man's Sky as a product, like as a thing that people had expectations for. Those expectations weren't met, and how the developer has tried to make sure that the game turns into something that people want, even if it isn't ever going to exactly meet those expectations. They've definitely put a ton of work into it, so I guess they could afford to. The game really still sold a ton when it came out, so they're probably just still sitting on all that money and putting it to work into the game. Did you watch the first Fortnite competition from Epic, the first official one?
I didn't know much about this, so I just read this thing right now.
Yeah, so I didn't know much about it either until I saw the headline from PC Gamer. Epic's first official Fortnite competition was a total disaster. Here are the highlights from just this one paragraph in the story. Some of the best competitors died to horrible latency issues while the casters laughed it off. A private planning spreadsheet appeared on the screen for all viewers, so like a private planning spreadsheet used internally by the company putting on the event. 10 matches were promised for the event, only 4 were broadcast. There was an arbitrary invite list for who got to compete, so dozens of established pros were denied the chance to even compete in the first place. And the prize money was riding on getting at least 2 victory royales, which meant that people playing the game in the competition were being very conservative, very dull, and camping. So it was boring to watch. It sounds like a rough start. And
a rough start to that $100 million investment, huh?
Exactly, $100 million online from Epic toward Fortnite esports. And it's like, yeah, the money's going to attract the competitors, but like, why would you have this arbitrary invite list? But whatever. People care about big money prize pools in esports, so maybe that's why you put it in there so people will watch. But I still think if you make it boring.
Yeah, well, it's right because like people like watching the Fortnite streamers because they're very good, but they're also don't have to take it that seriously, right? Like they can kind of have some fun with it. They're never gonna play pretty aggressively because if they lose the one game, I'll play the next one, and they'll still win more, like a lot more than the average person. But when you say like it says here's the prize money on the line, they are going to play it very methodically, and is methodical. Battle Royale that much fun to watch? I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like they could structure the point system in a way that that it would encourage maybe more aggressive play, like
that you get point for kills, not just for victory royale.
Yeah, exactly. But then at the same time, then you're messing with the purity of the system of like, just be the last player standing. Yeah, it's complicated. There's gives and takes, but. Of all these problems, latency issues, not having, just being disorganized, I think a boring thing to watch is their biggest one, and maybe the thing they could fix most readily.
I think it's got to be like the golden snitch, right? Like getting victory royale is still by far worth the most points. Right. They get some points for killing people.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Let's see. Next up, German court bans vague dates like coming soon in marketing sales.
Is this actually upset anybody? Do people get mad when they see coming
I was
soon?
honestly going to ask you this. That's why I put it in here. Like, do you care about?
They get so mad? Like, well, I don't know when that is.
I don't know.
Could be anything.
I don't know. I wonder if I'm sure
it's gonna come out at some point. It's okay.
Coming soon. That's meaningless, and that makes
maybe
me
coming
very
soon
upset.
Translates to something real vulgar in German. like maybe this is getting lost in translation.
My grandma's gonna read this.
Yeah,
I don't know. It sounds like a German court ban, so someone must have brought it to the German court. I didn't look at the details. I was honestly just like, do you think anyone cares about this? But I mean, like,
what are they going to say instead? Nothing.
I think they just have to say nothing. Maybe. Yeah, I think that's their other option.
Here's our thing. Maybe it'll come out. Maybe it won't.
Yeah, I mean, could you like coming at some point in the future would be technically accurate? Maybe you could say that.
Yeah, like
soon maybe implies something. Yeah, it's just a weird thing, and it reminds me of the I think this just went into effect in the Netherlands. Players of CS:GO in the Netherlands can no longer open all the prize packs, all their crates that they're getting because it's illegal in the Netherlands now. So Steam's just like, okay, we're not going to replace it. We're just going to keep them closed forever and give them no way to open it.
But that's what everyone wanted. Everyone wants to make this illegal.
And it's like, okay,
Yay.
I mean,
problems are solved.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, first of all, unless you get like a global rule, and I guess unless you get the United States to do something, which is like a big enough market where it would filter down everywhere else, you're going to get these weird offshoots where it's like your country is just not a big enough market for us to really care. So you're just going to get a suboptimal experience. Like you're still going to be in the same thing, but you're just not going to get what everyone else wants. And it just feels like one of these weird, legislative or judicial solutions that are never going to be perfect and are just going to cause more problems than they solve. I mean, trying to ban coming soon, it's like, okay, they'll find ways around that, but it still just seems stupid.
They'll invent a battle pass or something else. This isn't technically gambling anymore. Governments can't get mad at this.
Last one. So there was a leak of some Steam data that I think Kyle Orland over at Ars Technica was doing a lot of stuff with. And it seems like amongst that data is the evidence that Wolfenstein 2 really did not sell very well on PC.
This makes you sad, huh? This gives you a sad. I'm
very sad. Yeah, I'm also relieved that we got at least something new with Wolfenstein at E3, but I'm still sad that this is the case. So this is just PC. Doesn't include Xbox One or PlayStation 4, where sales definitely would have been higher because that's just the way sales work. Consoles still sell more games. 550,000 copies as of July 1st, 2018. That's 1 million less than Wolfenstein: The New Order. And then it's also less than that offshoot Wolfenstein the old gods
the
old blood and I think it's even less than Prey. So yeah, it's just oof all around. And I hope this isn't I hope this isn't the end. I hope like the Young Bloods comes out and like, oh, this is like, okay, we're never gonna revisit this series, or at least not for a long time, or we're gonna change it drastically. Let them finish the trilogy, and then we'll see. Like, give them one more shot.
There's still clearly a spot for the Wolfenstein 3 at the end of Wolfenstein 2.
Right.
And I don't think that's what's going to be addressed in this kind of
No. This is definitely a side story, yeah.
Right. I mean, much of the story of 2 is kind of like organizing the revolution. You don't actually do it.
Right. And we have to kill Mecha Hitler. We got to get to that point. And it's like, I've been... Ever since I got into the first Wolfenstein, and I'm like, man, they're going to wait until the third game before they give us Mecha Hitler, aren't they? I've been waiting for it ever since.
Did you read the comments in like that Reddit kind of post where you know people are talking about this? Because there's a disconnect where it's like a lot of people who are like, good, yeah, this game had bad word of mouth and it's actually not very good, and only journalists liked it. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I think I'm not too, I didn't see that, but I'm also not surprised that that's how some people feel. You know, to me, it was a special game. Like, it's a special game with incredible writing and characters, and yeah, I also agree that it didn't have great shooting and stuff. And it's like, I don't know, if you're just coming to games for that stuff at this point, like, I feel sorry for you, but I also can't change your tastes. So, and like, yeah, I feel that way, but I don't necessarily know if they're the majority either, and I don't know if it's bad word of mouth is exactly correct either.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that, because I don't know. It's even still to me, just across everything, I thought the word of mouth seemed good.
Right. I mean, I think the first comment is right. It came out on the same day as Mario Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Origins, which both had huge sales. Like, both Assassin's Creed Origins did really well, and Super Mario Odyssey, of course, like stole all the headlines. It was a huge release for the Switch. Yeah, I think we'll see. I mean, they did just release Wolfenstein 2 for the Switch. Maybe that'll do something. Maybe because like that,
it'll sell something.
Yeah, that platform overall is doing really well. That's not exactly the kind of game that is thriving on the Switch. It's all indie games for the most part, but there's no rule that says this couldn't. So we'll see. All right, Mike. I think that's gonna wrap it up, though. That's all the news. You got anything else for me?
No.
Well, I think we should probably wrap this whole thing up. I'm gonna go on vacation next week. I'm trying to think what we should do, because I don't want to. We
just on vacation.
Yeah, I took a long weekend for July 4th, and I'm like
taking vacations at work. I'm the only one allowed to do anything this summer.
Didn't you just go to Disney World again? Just do it, Mike.
That was like spring.
Fair enough.
I'll be taking time off in fall, though. I'll probably take a little bit off right before BlizzCon, so I can go to Disneyland again. And I have to go to a wedding in Florida, and I'll have to visit Disney World while I'm there. So
yeah, of course. I'm trying to think of what we should do. I'm thinking maybe actually we should get back together on Thursday or Friday and just record like an.
I'll never get back together with you.
Please.
You blew it. You had your chance.
No, please, man. I need this.
No.
Maybe we could just do like a traditional GamesBeat Decides, where we just like pick a topic and talk about the best stuff in it or something, and then we can save that for next week, and then the week after that we'll be back to our normal stuff. In the meantime, though, Mike, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me at GamesBeat, of course. I'm also at Twitter at Tolkoto. That's TOLKOTO. And I also do the Exploding Bro podcast with my brother. You can look for that at all the podcast places.
And I am Jeff Grubb on Twitter. Get me on youtube.com/JeffreyGrubb and twitch.tv/JeffGrubb. I was playing Frostpunk all on Twitch, having a good time there. People were really getting horrified at all of my behaviors and actions in that game, and that gave me life, and I really appreciated that. And like I said, we'll be back soon. We'll have the podcast next week. I'll figure something out. We haven't even really figured out if we're going to go anywhere, Mike. I think I might just go. I'm going to stay home for most of it, but I think we might travel into Aspen or something. We got the mountains right there. Why not? Sure. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. Bye.
Bye.